Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to the Sports Perspective TV. As always, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate you taking your time out to watch the video and hope you're having a blessed day. Whether it's a morning, evening, or night, whenever you're watching this video, have a blessed day, right? So, in this video, as you can tell from the thumbnail, we're going to be discussing, the West Indies opening position for the upcoming series against Sri Lanka, right? The first T20 begins on the 14th or the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. And based on the squad that's been selected, there are quite a few openers, in the squad, right? And as you know, only two openers can play at a time, right? Or only two openers can open, right? So we're going to be discussing it and also giving you the viewers and subscribers an opportunity to share your thoughts. What would you do in the situation? So the question that I want you to answer in the comment section is, which of these openers would you select to for the first T20 or for the series in general to open, right? There are at least four openers in the squad, right? So you have Brandon King, Shea Hope, Evan Lewis, and Alec Athenius. Of course, Shea Hope and Alec Athenius were the ones that opened in the most recent series against South Africa. And Brandon King and Evan Lewis have been added to the squad as well. So there's a bit of an opening dilemma. I'm also going to be sharing, with you what pair I would go with, and my decision will be based on, form, stats, and of course team composition, right? And that's what we're going to be discussing in this video, right? So we're going to be stating a claim for each batter. Well, more so Lewis, King, and Shea Hope. Athenius, I don't think Athenius will get the opening spot over any of these batters, right? So I think the competition will be between Evan Lewis, Brandon King, and Shea Hope. So let's get into the discussion, right? And starting with Evan Lewis. Right, Evan Lewis, historically, he's been one of our best batters, in T20 cricket, as far as stats wise, and you know what Evan Lewis can do, he's showing it, whenever he suits up for the West Indies. And in fact, if you're talking about stats or even average wise, right, Evan Lewis is one of our best openers for the West Indies in T20 cricket, right? Average wise, obviously, Chris Gayle is the greatest ever, but if you're talking about average, and what they have done for the West Indies, Evan Lewis numbers for the West Indies in T20s are actually better than Chris Gayle. This is not to say he's better than Chris Gayle, because he's definitely not. But I'm just saying from when you just look at the raw stats, that's what you see from Evan Lewis, right? And so him, first of all, it's good to see him back in West Indies colours. First of all, back in the team, after a long break for whatever the reasons are. We won't get into that in this video, or won't get into that at all, right? But it's good to see Evan Lewis back in the squad. And he had a decent CPL as well. So in the CPL, he scored 248 runs, at an average of 27.55, right? So that's decent production. Obviously it's Evan Lewis, so we know he can even do better than that. But nevertheless, that's still decent production from him. And I think based on that, what Evan Lewis has in his favor, well, both him and Athenius, right, is that he's a left-handed batter, right? And as you know, in cricket, any left-hand, right-hand combination is always beneficial to the batting team, as it puts the bowling team under a bit of pressure, puts the bowlers under a bit of pressure, having to constantly, adjust their line, especially, and sometimes depending on the style of the batter, their length as well, right, which poses difficulties for any bowling attack, any bowling lineup, any bowler, right? So Evan Lewis being a left-hander, Athenius is also a left-hander, but I think Evan Lewis has the edge over Athenius. Again, just based on history, based on form in the CPL, right? Evan Lewis scored more runs than Athenius in the CPL, right? So I think even though Athenius had a somewhat decent series against South Africa, I think Lewis will get the edge over Athenius, in terms of being the left-hander, the left-handed opener, at least for the first few matches in the series, right? So, based on that, I think Evan Lewis's spot is secured as an opener, right? Again, based on just the things that I just mentioned, him being a left-hander, his current form, and just his numbers historically, right? We move on now to our Brandon King, You know, Brandon King, you know, he's coming back into the team from injury, off injury, right? Didn't have the best of CPLs. You know, in fact, his CPL was terrible. You know, he only played a few games. Of course, he played 4 matches and only scored 59 runs in those 4 matches. You know, at an average of 14.75, right? But you know, you know what Brandon King can do. You know, when he gets going. So it will be interesting. So based on current form, you know, you would definitely say no to a Brandon King, you know, being the opener, obviously. But you know, I do think Darren Sammy wants to have a right hand left hand combination, you know, at the top of the order. And you know, you saw it against South Africa where he went for Athens and Shea Hope throughout the World Cup as well. You know, well, not so much during the World Cup because King and Charles opened during the World Cup, but we saw what happened when Mayers came in and partnered with Charles. You know, so most of the time, you know, Sammy wants to have a left hand right hand combination opening the innings if possible. So I think that works in Brandon King's favor a bit. You know, not to say he will start, but like I said, I will be sharing who I think who my opening pair would be. You know, obviously Evan Lewis is, like I said earlier, Evan Lewis is already, his spot, in my opinion, is already secured. Right. So, but Brandon King, you know, is a bit questionable. You know, coming back from injury and based on form, you know, there's definitely questions to be asked and answered there. Right. So moving on now to Shea Hope. Shea Hope had a brilliant CPL, right? He scored 391 runs, you know, from 13 matches at an average of 30.07. Right. You know, he was amongst the top scorers in the CPL. And he's in good form, right? He's in brilliant form. You know, definitely cannot question that. And even though in the CPL he did not open for the Guyana Amazon Warriors, so he batted in the middle order, you know, primarily coming in at number 3 for them, right? So him being a opener, you can actually say, you know, him opening now for the West Indies might be in question. But here's the thing though. For the West Indies, you know, whenever Shea Hope opens, especially in recent times, you know, he has done really, really well. Right. If you go back to the World Cup, you know, he smashed that brilliant 80-something. I think it was against Afghanistan, you know, being an opener, you know, go back to the South Africa series, the most recently played series, right? He opened and he had a brilliant series against South Africa as well. So when Shea Hope opens for the West Indies, you know, in T20s, you know, he has produced runs, right? And I think that definitely needs to be given a lot of consideration, you know, and I'm sure Darren Sammy will be considering that as well, you know, in determining, you know, which players, which pair he will go with, you know, as the opening pair, right? Shea Hope, you know, you know, with Shea Hope, the thing is, when with a Shea Hope, he is I guess you can call him a utility player. You know, he fits in wherever the team needs him. You know, he has the know-how, he has the temperament, and he has the ability to increase his scoring, you know, when needed. You know, we going back to the World Cup, we saw him do it in the World Cup, you know, scoring fast. That 80-something was at a blistering pace. You know, in the CPL as well, you know, when the need arises, you know, he's able to up his scoring rate, you know, and also, you know, while doing so, you know, rotating the strike, you know, running well between the wickets. So with a Shea Hope, we get a complete player, a complete batter, you know, a stroke player who is able to rotate the strike and also, you know, play the big shots when necessary as well. So there are a lot of positives, you know, with a Shea Hope, as far as it relates to the West Indies team and opening batting. But here's the thing though, and like I mentioned earlier, my decision is based on both form, stats, and team composition. So based on, if you're going based on form and stats, then it will definitely be a no-brainer to have Shea open with Evan Lewis. But here's where the team composition part comes in now, right? So in that number 3 spot for the West Indies, there's no Nicholas Pooran in this squad, right? And you know, the especially in recent times, the number 3 position, you know, has been for Nicholas Pooran, batting for the West Indies, right? So with no Nicholas Pooran in the squad, that number 3 spot is open, and that's where Shea Hope excelled, you know, in the CPL batting for Guyana, and you know, all of the things that I mentioned earlier about him, his ability to to rotate the strike, you know, build an innings if necessary, you know, up his striking rate, up his scoring rate, you know, when needed as well. You know, I think based on the composition of this team, you know, I think number 3, Shai batting at number 3 in this team might be the best thing for the West Indies, right? And yeah, based on just that, so you know, it's for that reason why I would go with Brandon King and Evan Lewis as the openers, right? And Andre Fletcher, and there definitely can be an argument made for Andre Fletcher as well, right? He had a decent CPL also, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Fletcher, you know, gets that opening spot and opening with Evan Lewis, you know, as well. You know, they did it for St. Kitts, right? So don't actually don't rule out Fletcher, you know, being, you know, one of the openers as well, right? And actually, now that I think about it, again, if you base it on stats, you know, Fletcher might even have a better chance of opening than a Brandon King. But you know, so but it will be left to be seen. You know, but personally, you know, I would go with Lewis for sure, and then it would either be King or Fletcher, right? And now that I think about it, Fletcher might be leading King in that department, but you know, King historically, you know, he's been the opener, and Fletcher, you know, he in T20s he's batted lower down the order for the West Indies as well. King not so much, right? So if you're talking about familiarity and playing players where they're familiar, then Brandon King might get the edge there and get the opening spot. But Evan Lewis for sure. And I would say Brandon King, they might bring Andre Fletcher a bit lower down in the order, considering the fact that so many of the other top batters are not there. You know, Andre Russell, Pooran, like I mentioned earlier, no Shimron Hetmyer, no JC Holder, you know, so Fletcher might be used a bit lower down in the order. So my opening pair would be Brandon King and Evan Lewis, right? Definitely let me know what you think about it and who you would go with as the opening pair for this Sri Lanka series. You know, but that's all I have for you in this video, viewers and subscribers. You know, as always, thank you for tuning in. Do remember to like the video, definitely share your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so as yet. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.